You guys knew I wouldn't be sitting on this for too long because Salmonella uploaded. All right, I got the notifications from you guys all over. So I'm excited to check out Presidential Pets, A Brief History. I'm Mr. Terry. I'm a high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video. All right, this video will be linked down below. Make sure you're supporting Sam. I know he's huge, but hey, the more you support him, the more hopefully he'll make videos. All right, let's get started. All right, a lot of presidents have had pets, but I want the Salmonella breakdown of some weird stories about them. Did one of them go crazy? Isn't Biden's dog, like his German Shepherd, hasn't been like biting staff members and stuff? I want the crazy stuff. Let's go, Sam.
Hey adults, so most of us are aware of at least one animal
Okay,
companion.
wait. He's already going too fast.
Hey adults,
What's this first thing?
so most of us are aware of at least one animal. Hey adult.
Review from their channel contains harmful content involving minors. Oh gosh. All right, if you're a YouTube content creator, you get this kind of stuff as feedback from YouTube when you're trying to post videos all the time and you're like, wait, what? And then you have to go back and you fix something, then they're fine with it, or you just have someone manually review it and it works.
So most of us are aware of at least one animal companion to the commander-in-chief. All but 3 presidents have owned some kind of pet during their term, and there's good reason for that. Not only does a lovable
Sorry, I'm already coughing because I'm sick and it was funny. I lost it. I saw the Trump picture.
But 3 presidents have owned some kind of pet during their term, and there's good reason for that. Not only does a lovable mutt serve to humanize an otherwise larger-than-life figure, but their cute antics can also be a great distraction when needed. Huh? Drone strikes? Never heard of her. Hey, we're doing a photo op with this dog that shares a name with my vice president's son, because, you know, that's not weird at all. But as it turns out, dogs and cats are just the tip of the iceberg. There have been a lot of quadrupedal occupants of the White House, even without Miss Lewinsky. So today we'll be going through just a few of quadrupedal occupants of the White House, even without Miss Lewinsky. So,
okay, you're here for the reason you go to my channel over so many other channels is that I actually talk about the history behind the history videos. And there's not too much I want to go on with his whole reference to Monica Lewinsky. We can look at the Lewinsky scandal under the Clinton administration. He made a joke there that you're gonna, if you really want to, you can look, but yeah.
So today we'll be going through just a few of the more interesting ones. Going back to the beginning, Washington had critters galore, including 4 black and tan slur hounds that he named Drunkard, Taster, Tippler, and Tipsy. They sound like if Santa's reindeer were all alcoholics, which would be a shame because Rudolph's red nose would no longer be of note. John Adams had 3 dogs that presumably spanned the alignment chart, being named Juno, Mark, and Satan respectively. Not a joke. Jefferson kept around 40 sheep during his presidency, one of which was a 4-horned Shetland ram. Though nameless, said ram soon became famous for killing a young boy on White House grounds. Rather than immediately
so I knew Sam wouldn't disappoint me. This wouldn't just be a breakdown of all these okay, here's this pet checkers or whatever. Wasn't that Nixon's or something like that? He's going into the weird stuff. It kind of makes sense that like Jefferson would bring his farm because he basically had a plantation there. It's slave plantation. I'm glad it wasn't slaves walking around on the front lawn or something like that, but bring his sheep in. But killer rams, okay.
Destroying the animal as we'd expect today, Jefferson just had it moved back to Monticello. It was eventually put down, but only after it single-handedly killed several other rams at the estate, which just goes to show how Jefferson operated. Random child, not the best optics, but that can be forgiven. But my own property, that's a bridge too far, Rambo. John Quincy.
That's what they thought. You guys know they treated slaves as property. That random kid wasn't going to be of any economic value, but yeah, herd of sheep for sure. Yep. Is that where our morals were in the 1700s?
Adams' wife Louisa practiced sericulture, which is a fun word for silkworm keeping. As a side note, sericulture has been going on since at least 3630 BC, which is kinda nutty, because that means we domesticated worms to turn their goo into clothes before we figured out how to ride a horse. Jackson had an African gray parrot named Palm.
Made sense. Hey, that's where the Silk Road's named after it. China understood. Because silk making is such a crazy intensive process, they kept that under wraps for millennia. It was actually illegal to divulge secrets or even take out silkworms out of China. And then even when people took over China, like the Mongols did, they did the same thing. By the way, I'm looking at a Weezer picture in the Oval Office, and then I have no idea who the dude on the right is, but okay.
into clothes before we figured out how to ride a horse. Jackson had an African gray parrot named Paul, short for Polly, that would apparently curse like a sailor, probably thanks to the teachings of Old Hickory himself. Having outlived its owner, Paul ended up being removed from Jackson's funeral service after unleashing so much profanity that guests found it genuinely upsetting. He also kept roosters for cockfighting, which was acceptable at the time and still far from the worst thing he's done morally. During Van Buren,
that's the thing. Like, I wasn't surprised. He could have had the murderous rams and all that stuff. Like, it's just Jackson. That's how he rolls.
The Sultan
Van Buren, he had the epic
and still far from the worst thing he's done morally. During Van Buren's term, the Sultan of Oman sent a variety of gifts to the president, among them being a pair of tiger cubs. He was like, "This is badass," and desperately wanted to keep them in the White House. But the dickheads in Congress asserted that, due to a specific constitutional provision, gifts to the presidential office weren't for the man himself, but for the people.
Van
Buren said, "Fuck the people, them's my tigers," and got into a legal battle with the legislator over the issue, which he eventually lost. The tiger,
I guess that makes sense. The whole constitutional provision that says, "Hey, presidents can't just accept gifts; they're gifts to the state," because then you would just get bought off. Right, you just get personally bought off by every foreign power. And I know you're like, yeah, presidents do that anyways, but now at least there's a constitutional provision. But yeah, now he doesn't get the tigers in there. That'd be sick. If right in the front of his desk there, he had some flaming cauldrons and then some like tigers on chains. Dude, no country would mess with us. Everybody would remember Mr. Van Buren, who was really short too, right? But he had those epic chops.
Tigers were subsequently sent to a zoo, and over 20 years later, Van Buren died of pneumonia, completely unrelated to this incident. Although Andrew Johnson had no de jure pets, he did befriend a family of mice he found in his bedroom, feeding them flour and grain and referring to them as the little fellows. It's an oddly wholesome thing to hear from someone who essentially set the trajectory for the next 100 years of black disenfranchisement. Mr. Johnson, we still have a country to rebuild. Get out of my room, I'm getting rat-pilled. Taft had 2 cows there.
So Johnson, notorious for basically being hated by everybody. So he becomes president after Lincoln gets assassinated, and he was a political pick because he was like a white Southerner, but had like Northern sentiments and was supposed to be this political thing. And then people say totally botched Reconstruction, and a lot of people consider him probably. I'd see him cited very often. Worst 5 presidents, probably. All right, Taft. All right, they made him a big boy. All right, here we go. All right. Did one of the animals get him out of the tub that he got stuck in?
The first of them was named Mooly Wooly, and she died a year and a half in after, quote, eating too many oats. Mooly was promptly replaced by the far more dignified Pauline Wayne. She was a real dime of a heifer, which led Taft to show her off at the International Dairymen's Expo in Milwaukee. In order to get her there, she was transported in a private car attached to a train headed for the stockyards in Chicago. But a switch crew mixed up which car was hers, leading to 2 days of frantic telegraphs asking where the president's cow had gone. She only narrowly avoided the slaughterhouse when a couple of attendants at the stockyard recognized Pauline for what she was, and all was well. This next one requires a little background.
Sam is packing in information. This seems like such a faster pace than his normal videos. When I saw that this was like 7 minutes, I was wondering if he was like, I'm just going to rush through something to get some, obviously make money and keep relevant and stuff like that. But he's packing it in here. I'm really impressed.
Background info. So the traditional Thanksgiving dinner was and remains a significant yearly ceremony for the first family. For half a century, from 1873 to 1913, the duty of providing the presidential turkey belonged to one Horace Vose, a private turkey farmer based in Rhode Island. After his death, though, things turned into a free-for-all, with numerous farmers sending unsolicited turkeys, both alive and dead, in an attempt to secure position as the next annual caterer for the White House. Nobody was decided on for a decade.
What's that? Ataturk? I gotta look at these jive turkeys. Anachronistic livestock. Attaboy. Ataturk. Ataturk was the at this time he would have been around. Oh wait, which president are we talking about again? Okay, so Ataturk actually would have been around that time. Ataturk was kind of seen as the founder of the modern Turkey, country of Turkey after the Ottoman Empire.
As the next annual caterer for the White House. Nobody was decided on for a decade, and upon assuming office in 1923, Calvin Coolidge found the volume of birds showing up at his doorstep alarming, and put an end to the tradition that year, instead opting to buy his own turkey. But in 1925, after much outside pressure, he caved, and was immediately flooded with not only turkey, but a variety of increasingly exotic animals to eat. Among them was a live raccoon he received the following year. Coolidge was, at the time, blissfully unaware of the intricate dance performed on the palette between forward yet ephemeral gaminess and heady seductive musk when one submits himself to the experience of a toothsome raccoon fillet, and as such he decided to keep it as a pet instead. Dubbed Rebecca, the creature soon came to be a core member of the Coolidge family. She ate as well as any of them, being fed things like shrimp and persimmons, and she was particularly fond of eggs. Given free reign over the house, Rebecca's hobbies reportedly included unscrewing light bulbs, uprooting houseplants, and playing with wet bars of soap in the bathtub. She was so beloved that she even had her own treehouse built for her in the White House yard. When the Coolidges made way for the Hoovers, Rebecca was forced to vacate her post, but the new first family soon found that they had a...
Herbert Hoover takes over, and then he gets blamed and goes over a very different trajectory. A lot of people are like, Coolidge, maybe he was all right. I don't know, maybe you're like, indirectly responsible for the Great Depression or something. Definitely when we get to Hoover there. I like the vacuum
squatter on their hands. The new tenant of Rebecca's treehouse was a wild opossum who...
By the way, I learned something interesting about raccoons. I never thought I'd be talking about raccoons on this channel, but apparently there's something in their DNA, or correct me if I'm wrong, biologists, that makes them very, very resistant to mutations, meaning raccoons that we see have basically looked like this for like millions of years or something. Like they don't evolve. They just don't evolve. But then you look at some about them, if you ever notice them, they're one of the most what do you call that? Like dexterous creatures. Like their hand coordination is so good. You can see that like there's so much about them that's like evolved as much as it could, that it could have been a mammal that could have been like humans or something, but has something in its like DNA that like resists mutation, therefore evolution. I thought I heard something like that recently. That was interesting.
Rather than being evicted, was adopted by the Hoovers in a similar fashion to Rebecca, albeit from a farther distance, mostly just saying, yeah, that's ours now. He was given the name Billy Possum, which is a reference to our old friend Taft. See, as the man following Teddy Roosevelt in the White House, Taft had some big shoes to fill. So during his term, some enterprising young dumbasses approached Taft with what they claimed would be the sequel to the teddy bear. They called it Billy Possum, which is itself a reference to the president's fondness of possum and taters, a dish he famously requested at a banquet in Atlanta as an act of goodwill towards the South and its culture. Taft found the idea amusing enough that he gave the green light, and many thousands of Billy Possums were produced. Given their total obscurity today, it's clear these toys were a massive flop, and there's a few reasons for that. For one, trying to force fads at all is like trying to push water uphill, but also, the story of Roosevelt refusing to shoot a tied-up bear has a bit more symbolic poetry to it than, it's a possum because he like possum, he a fat boy, eat him up good. Couple that with the constant character assassination that the opossum as an animal has received from ignorant urbanites, and it becomes obvious that this thing was doomed from the start. But anyway, that's where the Hoover opossum got his name, and his exploits were pretty limited outside of temporarily filling in as a mascot of a local high school. In 1961...
Wait, what? They donated to a high school? Shortly after adopting Billy Possum, President Hoover saw fit to loan his new pet to a local high school athletics program that becomes their like mascot. Bring that out at halftime at the football game. Go Possums! I bet they lost.
Temporarily filling in as a mascot of a local high school. In 1961, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev gifted a dog to the Kennedys named Pushinka or Fluffy. And while it is normally rude to look a gift dog in the mouth, an exception can be made when the single biggest threat to the free world insists that said dog should live with the president. Pushinka was x-rayed, put through metal detectors, and given ultrasounds out of fear that someone implanted her with a listening device.
Real.
Fortunately,
it's like, of all the things you would do. Okay, so after the Cuban Missile Crisis was basically over, Khrushchev and JFK famously were a lot closer, and they would talk to each other, even installed phone lines so they could talk to each other from basically the White House to the Kremlin. But yeah, giving gifts, it's like, no way the Secret Service or CIA or anybody is not going to... I figured just rip apart that dog looking for anything, because that's such a weird thing, but could be a genius plant for some espionage by the KGB.
There may be bugs in some of you mugs. There ain't no bugs in she. And Pushinka remained a Kennedy for the rest of her days. While truthfully, the gift was likely given as a simple act of good faith designed to reduce Cold War tensions. Pushinka was also the daughter of Strelka, who, during Sputnik 5, became the first mammal to make it back from space alive. So I'd like to think of it as more...
The Soviets in the space program, a lot of animals died, I believe. I don't know exactly how many, but I know famously they died. I think, wasn't there a Salmonella video about that? About like, it was space stuff like that. Gosh, it's been so long now. But I was always so sad to hear about the dead dogs. But hey, this dog comes with some ancestry.
More of a passive-aggressive space race flex. Like, yeah, our astronanimals are so alive, they're making babies even. Hope looking at this one constantly reminds you of where you stand. With that, I hope you found this highlight reel enlightening. It feels good to know that while Congress has always been a zoo, so too has the White House at times. That's all for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and you make my girlhood tremble.
All right, final thoughts. You know, I learned a ton from that. Like I was saying in the middle of the video, him, I don't know if this is going to be more of his style now, where he just packed information. It seems so much faster paced with content than his normal, stuff there. So I learned a ton there. I hadn't heard of those animals and getting how weird they were. And he did exactly what I hoped for, which give it the Salmonella take. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.